It's my pleasure to introduce Kristy Thomas, Senior Vice President of Global Channels and Alliances at Vonage. Thank you very much, Kristy, and have fun.
Yeah. Hi, thank you. Hi, good morning. How are you guys? Thank you for coming up to the front row. It's not a splash zone, I promise. I think these people are afraid of me, terrified. That's why they're in the back. Before I get into my talk track, I have a couple questions that I want to ask because I'm a curious soul. How many of you in this room for your customer satisfaction, use Net Promoter as your standard Net Promoter score? We do. You do. And how do you use Net Promoter? Do you send it as annual survey, or do you use it after every single incident? All of it? What about who uses customer satisfaction as a metric? You do. Tell me about it.
So for us, it is a post-interaction survey that is sent out to the member once a ticket or an interaction is solved.
Got it. Okay, so we've got Net Promoters, Team Net Promoter, Team Customer Satisfaction. So the reason why I ask is we work with a lot of different organizations to do market research for us and really understand what's happening in the landscape from a customer's perspective when it comes to customer experience. And one of the studies that they just delivered to us was really interesting. And I had to double click on it. And the study is that there is a very, very far gap between the perceived customer satisfaction of the company versus the true reality of customer satisfaction of the customer. Curious why? Why do you guys think that is? Any thoughts of why it's a gap?
Because it's usually the negative responses that make their way through.
Because it's mostly negative. Well, else? Not asking the right questions. Why do we do that? Why do we not ask the right questions? Personally, that's often me too. I don't, from a friend to friend, do you always ask the right questions of the truth, right? Unless the truth serum comes out with champagne, and then it does, right? But that's right. We're not asking the right questions. And so I think, one of the things that in my experience, I run Global Channel today, but prior to that, I worked with organizations like yours on CX transformation. And I think that that's oftentimes the value that you have with coming into these events and also talking to others is we operate in silos that we think we're asking the right questions based on what we know of our business, but sometimes bringing in third-party perspective helps. And so that's where I'm going to talk today a little bit about my 3 pillars that I call the 4 S's. And this has kind of been my mantra for 2025 when it comes to customer journey, customer experience, and customer satisfaction. And the first one is study. So now more than ever, I think it's really important because the rate in which we are running our businesses is so fast and the rate of innovation is happening so fast that we carve out time to study, to master our craft. You guys are doing that today. But do you do it every day? Do you enable your teams to do it every day? No? Why? There's no wrong answer. But we started doing it. And what we found is we committed to it, right? So every day we would carve out 20 minutes in our time to study on different types of topics, to really master our craft in our roles that we do, to get better. And what we saw with that is a vested interest in doing their jobs better because they took the time to study and really take a breath and invest in themselves. And so that's the first mantra that we have. And I often talk about that when I'm doing stakeholder interviews with organizations like yours, is how much time are you carving out to actually study? And the reality is you can't, because oftentimes your roles are you walk in and it's one of those revolving doors, like in Chicago downtown, right? When a storm comes in and you come in one at 8 a.m. and it spits you out the other side at 5 p.m. and you're like, what the hell just happened? Right? But it really does make a difference. And the great thing now is there's tools, and I'm sure all you guys have different AI policies on what you can and can't do, but can help you study faster. And so also listening to podcasts at 2x also helps you study faster. So there's lots of best practices out there to do that, number one. Number two is storytelling. And I think that this all comes into, again, technology is cool. And I'm going to talk a little bit about technology and how this correlates and also Vonage. But at the end of the day, these 4 principles are around practices and really state of the market. Who believes that the art of storytelling is lost? Kinda, right? I recall my grandfather, ironworker, fought in World War II, best storyteller. He could make anybody laugh. Dom, you're a great storyteller. Good storytellers. But for companies to really differentiate themselves, the brand ambassador, which are the ones that are in service and support, should really be great storytellers. And one of the best practices that you can do around this, and also have your customers be storytellers of your offering, is leverage tools like Conversation Analyzer. Have these conversations being captured between your customers and your brand ambassadors within your organization, and then listen to them and start to use those to tell your story. Because if customers can tell your story, you're doing something right. But first starts with you and helping those brand ambassadors be good storytellers of what it is in their role and responsibility. We call it contact center generally, but they're really brand ambassadors, what they're doing. They're representatives of your organization, and they are so critical to the business. And often we forget that because, again, we're going through those revolving doors and just trying to thrive, just trying to survive and thrive. So storytelling is the second pillar. The third pillar is simplicity. And simplicity now more than ever is really challenging because on average, statistics tell us that, and you guys need to validate this to me, going into pandemic, average users had 6 tools. Post-pandemic, users are now in a dozen or more tools that they have to use internally. Does this resonate with you guys? It's overwhelming. And so it's not only internal simplicity, and that's where, there's these areas of opportunity where you can go in with organizations like Vonage or many of these other organizations down this hallway and help you from a simplicity perspective of simplifying your tool stack and integrating, and that's step number 1. Because it also correlates for customers and buyers to make sure your product is simple to buy and simple to get support on. And it's really hard to get support on something if you have to go to 5 different places that aren't integrated in the source of truth. And so these are just best practices that before we get into any type of AI technology, that we start at the foundation of the framework. So the 4th pillar is simplicity. Do we agree with that? No. Third. Thank you. Oh my gosh, somebody's actually listening to me. He's taking notes. I didn't. If you are going to text when I'm talking, though, make sure you're texting somebody that you love them and you care about them, because that's a good text to send. All right, now the 4th pillar. The 4th pillar and what we operate under from a best practice perspective is service. And that is something that you can control. So the 4th pillar of the 4 S's that we operate every single day is service. And each and every one of your organizations is in business to do one thing, and that is to transact. And a lot of, most are profit businesses. Some are not for profit, but you still have to transact. And the way in which you do that is you communicate with good service externally out there to transact business. And it comes back to where I started, and that was the customer satisfaction and the Net Promoter Score. And I think what's interesting about that is right now we're using these tools like Net Promoter. My daughter at 20 doesn't know what Net Promoter is. Do you think she's going to click on that star? The review? No. But for the first time ever, 5 generations have economic power to buy your service or your good. So there's going to be a generational shift. And so I would challenge you to step back and think, is Net Promoter the right tool, or is customer satisfaction the right tool that we should be using? Or is there a better way for us to benchmark whether or not our customers are happy or not using our solution? So I challenge you to think about that, because it is going to change. And so what back to the simplicity, what do certain generations look for? How easy is it for them to transact? And how fast? If my daughter has to pick up the phone, you're not getting the business. It's not happening. But she's spending mommy and dad's money right now, but she will optimistically be in the workforce in the next 2 years, spending her own money. Hallelujah. And she has choices. So why does this all correlate back to leveraging agentic AI or AI-like tools for generational shift into the modern buyer? And that is, there's lots of conversation right now around trust of these technologies. Are they secure? Does the consumer or the buyer trust them? And I think one of the things now more than ever we've had work in our favor in the marketplace is when ChatGPT came out and all of our college students started using it to write their term papers, my daughter, it really broke into the consumer mark around the trust around these types of technologies and the awareness of them. And so what this tells us is that there are certain generations that already trust this technology a lot more than others. And these are your future generations. And so they are expecting a rich agentic AI interaction to transact. And so what does that look like for your business over a period of time? You can't go there tomorrow, maybe many of you, because there's a lot of foundational things that you need in order for them to be successful, and you have to put guardrails on them. But when it comes back to how are you driving to the modern buyer, it's looking at where the modern buyer is going. It's not where they are today. Thoughts? Thoughts? Right? I agree? Yeah. So how do we do that? Because we also don't want to lose the people like me that still have a lot of economic spend in the marketplace that still want to be able to transact in certain ways and just get our issue resolved on the phone. So this is where agentic AI comes into really being that digital doorstep front of your business and focusing on some of these jobs to get done at the early beginning of an interaction with your company, with the consumer. Do we have any AI pilots right now that you guys are running in your environment? No. Are you talking about AI pilots? What are you talking about using it for?
So we're getting into a CRM in a few months.
A new CRM?
And we're looking at like a co-pilot for our phone agents, so that as they're having a conversation, they can access our knowledge database and pull up information that'll help them with that call.
Perfect. So what we call that, because I love the way us suppliers use all these terms that don't make any sense to you guys, right? You're like, what the heck is that? We call it agent assist. Okay. So you're going to integrate into your new CRM, and then it's going to source information, whether it's based on the case or the knowledge base, and help the agent through that. What's the expectations of that from a KPI? Faster resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
Better customer experience.
And better customer experience. How did you get that approved with the CFO?
She's been a big proponent of the customer experience to begin with, but she's been a big push behind
a lot of what we've been doing to try and improve that customer experience, because happier customers are happier employees of better business.
Beautiful. So what he just talked about is a transformative CFO, a modern thinking CFO that's now looking around how customer experience is really a growth strategy from their perspective to differentiate in the marketplace. This is new. There's now studies out. McKinsey just did one about 6 months ago. And if you link in with me, I can send it to you. But it talks about the new modern CFO and really starting to look at ROI around customer experience as a different lever. So the old school ROI that wants to know the hard cost savings that you're going to bring into the business by reducing headcount is a little bit different. And now thinking about how do we disrupt and drive better EBITDA for more wallet share and faster resolution of time. Very good. Any other pilots? We're all friends here. Did I see your hand? Oh, here she is. You're afraid of the mic? I'll just...
No,
I love it.
So we're using AI in multiple ways. One is for quality assurance and 100% review of all kinds of incoming contact. So we can not only evaluate rep performance and do better coaching. So As an example, if we're looking for people to be very empathetic, and we have some reps who are really good with those empathy statements, we can now share that with everybody and use these things, make these your own. So that's one example on the QA side. The other thing are gleaning insights from those conversations and transcribed conversations. We can summarize the conversation so we have work efficiencies and deep analytics and agent assist.
And these, so both of these two pilots, the one that you just described and also the pilot that you described, are great first use case examples of benefits of AI that actually can have tangible, real results within your organization. Because a lot of the others are still subject to quantitative and qualitative analysis. Anybody using AI to for a job to be done, meaning a mundane task that takes it off the place of the actual worker. You are bots. You, yeah. Yeah, and you're using bots for it, but not agentic AI yet. And you're close. Oh, I like hers. Disruption, just like your company. Close, which is great. Oh, yeah. Which is great because those jobs to be done are the jobs that actually do start to quantify an ROI of agentic AI.
Yeah, we're also using it for balance checks. So we work for a health insurance company, and the members will call in, and instead of getting an agent to give them the balance, they just do it right on the phone.
Got it. So that's, and then they can actually close out that case on its own. The AI, agentic AI that you're using, that use case. So that entire job to be done is from cradle to grave, more or less. And when did you implement it? Okay. So now you should be able to start to see the results of it. I love this. Anybody else? Yes. Sure. Yeah. It's another term that we all use here behind your backs that nobody knows in the real market. Isn't this ridiculous? It's ridiculous. So agentic AI, by definition, is the next evolution of what chatbots used to be or are in the marketplace. And this is where actually a job to be done, like, for example, checking balance, not only does that go in, this bot goes in and checks the balance, gives it back, or a status on a claim or whatever, but it actually will carry out a workflow and make decisions on logic, and it's learning. So it takes it from start to finish, and there's never any type of human intervention in it, does the complete job on its own. So they say job to be done. So oftentimes that's where, when I was not at Vonage, but doing CX transformation consulting, is I would say, tell me all the jobs that these customer service representatives do in a day. What's the jobs to be done? And then you talk about the time for each of those jobs and what's mundane. And then you start to unpack that and find the lowest hanging fruit, and I know another dumb term that we all use, of use cases, because it does give time back to that individual. And just on average, the market study says that technology is only 20% of your spend within your organization, 80% is your people. So you've got the most expensive part of your organization is the people. So you want to make sure that you put them in the most successful light with human in the loop, another term we use, connecting people together to solve. So all of these top tickets that you do are often use cases like checking balance or following up from something on a case that's open that you can use for jobs to be done in an agentic AI. So it's an advanced bot that's going in and doing workflow in addition to giving prompts back to. So it will prompt the inbound person on the chatbot, but it also is doing internal things of workflow that typically a human would be doing. Good. Thank you for asking. All right. So, and this is why it's important, before I just jumped into my talk track about AI and future generation buyers, I think it's important to level set all of these different technologies and the use cases that are actually adopting them. And I also will say the last thing that when we story tell and I sit down and have conversations with a lot of customers like you, I have to say you're not ready yet. But I'll still love you in the morning, because the foundation for AI to be properly successful is there's obviously got to be a certain level of regulation and compliance. But number two is for it to actually be successful, you have to have core foundation things like a knowledge base, like a CRM. And so although the boardroom might be saying, what's your AI strategy? Many of these organizations have to be at that foundational level first before you can even leverage these technologies. And so that's where we started at building that house. You set the foundation first with knowledge bases, CRMs, case ticket management platforms. And then the next piece of it is how do you integrate them? Because they all have to talk to each other in order for this technology to work. And then also, what does your data look like? Where does it sit? And if you start to get those foundations in first, then you will have successful AI projects that your CFO is going to love because you're going to be able to show the growth and the revenue potential of this technology is driving towards the organization. Questions? You ready to just go start buying it? I feel like I have to do a shameless plug of Vonage. Are you guys familiar with Vonage? You are. As a residential phone company, you're smiling. Yeah. It's big in New Jersey, yes, headquartered. I often start my conversations out of whose Vonage is we're no longer my grandpa's phone service. We actually are one of the largest global communications companies in the world. We're owned by a company called Ericsson's. We're part of Ericsson, which is a Swedish-based company that we all probably have their chipsets in our phones today. And so what do we do? Again, I'm not going to show up with all kinds of acronyms that don't make any sense to anybody that's out there in the normal life. What we really focus on is providing communications technology to organizations so that businesses enable their employees to communicate internally, back and forth, whether it's for service, sales, and support with our contact center technologies, or whether it's for just enabling your back office, not just, they're very important, your back office and knowledge workers as well. And then we also have a technology that we leverage for empowering your applications or your development of your services to be able to communicate with your customers. So think text messaging out to your customers if you've got an application that they download and communicate on. So we're a very extensive global communications provider. The biggest misnomer is we'll often say that we're a communications as a service company and they think that they have to buy everything from us. And that's not the case. We have a lot of different solutions like conversational AI, like Agent Assist. A lot of those can be sourced individually. You don't have to buy the entire stack. And why that's so important is that gets you in to be able to demonstrate the success of the technology on day one, and then over a period of time, expand it into other areas of the business where it makes sense based on readiness of your environment. All right. Who has Salesforce as their CRM? It is hot in here, huh? I heard it's going to be 90. You guys, none of you guys are using Salesforce as your CRM? We have one? Oh, Mark B would be upset to see this crowd. Just one.
We use T, but we use many. We have many clients, so they all do different things, several uses.
Okay, so you have access into multiple Salesforce instances based on your customer. Got it. Okay. All right. So the other thing that we focus on is really that embedded experience. One of the things that we really try to deliver into these environments is you don't really care whether it's the tool has a DeWalt name on it or Makita, just what's the tool to get the job done, right? So although, marketing would be mad at me, we do talk about Vonage, but what we really focus on is embedding our solution into the most critical applications that you have in your business environment. So it just powers it to communicate, make calls, send text messages. And that we find that when we do that with customers, we really can get beyond just being a communications provider, but truly a technology partner for the organizations that we work with globally, like Goosehead Insurance, et cetera. All right, I'm going to leave this a little bit of time. I'm going to check time since I don't have a clock. I think I've got like 5 more minutes for questions. Any questions? 5 generations, modern buyer. Yes.
How do you think about layering AI in a business that is strategically rooted in concierge white glove service and has the tag?
That's a really good question. So for those that, what's that? Shannon's question is, how do you straddle the balance between being your differentiator in the marketplace as white glove customer concierge service? And so that requires human to provide a rich experience with the other human, historically speaking, in the industry. And so how do you dance this line of leveraging these technologies like agentic AI to get the benefits of it that all of the business marketplace is talking about without disrupting what your overall brand recognition is concierge service? And the answer is you start by using that technology first internally and not externally to those customers. And you start by really optimizing internally with AI there. And then the next after you do that is start to look at your different types of customer profiles and identify which ones are more receptive to this kind of experience. And that's how you do the generational shift into it. Is that an answer? Okay. Man, good thing they haven't given me 30 minutes. I would lose my voice. It's because of this guy. Kept me out too late. Any other questions? Yes. Hi, Jose.
Quite a question or comment. I think it goes along with the question here on.
Are you afraid it's like so they can-
No, I'm not. Not all. I had a question or comment. So the omni-channel,
Yes.
right, solution. You are going to have channels that are more, prone to for the younger generation, and then going to voice for different generations, right? So is that in line with what you were saying? Make sure that those are available, and then the importance of being able to hop channel to channel so that folks aren't repeating and everything's going ahead of them or forward. How do you guys handle that?
So that's one of the most important conversations that need to happen in the marketplace around when you say omni. Don't make the assumption that omni is that person's only going to communicate on that one channel from start to finish. They're jumping. And so that's where a lot of the evolution of our technology, along with others of these amazing technologies down that hallway, have been focused on is capturing what we call those interactions in a tiered fashion. So when and if the time is right to connect human in a loop, all of that journey, because often the reality of these use cases is that somebody always starts first. What do? They Google customer support. Oh, there's a chat here. I'm going to start the chat, right? Finding and not getting their answer. So then maybe they text or maybe they email. But we can see all of that through capturing those interactions in that journey in these platforms now, as long as they're integrated into the chat channels. So either it's the omni-channel is being provided by the same person that's capturing those interactions, or we have what's called bring your own channel, and we have to still integrate them from a workflow perspective.
We've seen success with the merging of them, right? Because you mentioned earlier about using some of the AI to capture some of the mundane tests.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's authentication or whether it's some of just the basic upfront, that they're okay giving to a thought, but then they want to have the real conversation with a person. You might knock 30 seconds, a minute off the AHT by combining the two. So if you kind of guide them through that on
Correct.
they will appreciate it that the conversation lasts 4 minutes, not 8 minutes.
Right.
Because of the combination of it.
Yep. And one of the things too is oftentimes when you're doing the financial analysis of this at the same time is people look at the rates for those different channels and they're comparing them wrong, because what they need to do is be comparing it to the cost of a human if they were to do that the entire life. And so they're looking at it from a usage-based perspective, like it's like telecommunications, and it's not. It's actually the FTE cost savings and looking at it like that. Yeah, it's huge. Same with Agent Assist. There was another question.
Hi,
Taylor.
it's a beautiful name. Thank you. So I work for National Grid in Massachusetts, which is an electricity and gas supplier. I work specifically on our energy efficiency programs. And part of why I'm here today is just immerse myself a little bit more in the contact center world, because we're in the process of creating the contact center for our customers in Massachusetts. And something that has come up a lot is obviously we're talking about AI today, and there's been a lot of discussion around AI in general. And something I'm kind of struggling with is, where do you find the balance between utilizing AI given the energy burden that is associated with it, especially for me in my field where we're trying to help customers reduce the amount of energy they're consuming. It can seem a little bit counterintuitive to then lean too heavily into the use of AI. So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on the general energy burden associated with it.
That's probably the mic drop question of the day. So the business ethics behind it, based on the type of organization that you are, you're stumping me on this one. I seriously need to think about this. Yeah. It was a great question.
Yeah, it's just because there's all these sessions today on AI, right? And I feel like this is a piece I'm always missing when I'm building to kind of balance.
Right.
It's just the right solution. This is not burden conversation.
Very good. I mean, does anybody have any comments? I need to think about this. I'm going to get your name because I want to collaborate on this a little bit more. Any comments around her question? Any similar challenges? Has to do with footprint, impact, carbon impact, and technology. Very interesting. Huh. I'm literally stumped. Sounds like we need an AI company that's powered by solar. Right? Maybe we just had a new... All right. Well, finally, what I want to say is thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your challenges, what you're trying to accomplish here today, your mind share, being interactive. I appreciate it. It makes a lot better of a 30-minute session when I can know that somebody's actively listening to me and that make sure I'm talking about the right ass at the right time. But it makes the session a lot better because it's actually relevant. It's why should we care about this stuff versus somebody talking at you. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I'll be here all day. And yeah, thank you.